Couldn't agree more. A very important thing in our business is to not care about what anybody thinks of you. That way you can be truly free to pursue your objectives. Next, we have our Game Changer Awards. And this year, we have the immense pleasure of having two solid, courageous premiers with us that have taken national leadership positions on so many issues. And our first award winner for the Game Changer Award West, I'm going to ask Ves Sobot to introduce Premier Scott Moe.
Thank you, Catherine. It's my honor and privilege to introduce this year's Game Changer Award recipient. As Catherine said, we have two. He is a staunch believer in free speech, parental rights, Canadian energy, and Canadian jobs. He advocates for economic autonomy and is fiercely opposed to the carbon tax. He's unapologetically supported the Freedom Convoy, and he was the first to lift the ill-conceived and unscientific COVID restrictions. And in the fullness of time, he's been proven so right. So the mainstream media, of course, has tried to paint him as a danger, as a heretic. But the people of Saskatchewan strongly disagree. He won the last election by a plurality of 80%. That's extraordinary. He consistently polls as one of the most popular premiers in Canada. Why? Because he's a fighter. You'll recall he demanded the same home heating tax relief that Trudeau gave a few chosen provinces. He's sued the federal government and often wins, emboldening others to do the same. He's exactly the person the Game Changer Award was created to recognize. He's a doer, he's a trailblazer, he's a leader, he's a true Canadian. Please join me in welcoming Premier Scott Moe, the 15th Premier of Saskatchewan, to accept CCMBC's Game Changer West Award for 2024. Congratulations. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much, Ves, and I welcome everyone. Welcome to all of those that have served in public service, currently serving in public service, and thank you to those that have put your name forward to serve in public service as well. And let me just tell you this, and some will know, those that have served. Joe, you served in the day when balanced budgets were cool. Blaine still thinks they are, and we strive for that in Saskatchewan as well. But for those that are going to serve, this is one of the most exciting and rewarding things that you'll ever be involved in, win or lose, and I hope you win. But it really is. And public service matters, and I encourage you and to encourage others in your discussions for people to put their foot forward. It's not as easy as maybe it once was, and it was never really that easy. But it's certainly not that easy today. And I just want to thank you for putting your foot forward, putting your name forward, and through you say thank you to your family, because nobody serves alone. They only serve with the love and support of their family. My friend Blaine. Oh, sorry, first of all, I want to say thank you to Janet and Carrie for putting this wonderful day on today, and for allowing Blaine and us to come a little early to have a discussion with a number of your members as well. My friend Blaine and I have been serving for roughly about the same period of time. I'm aging much better than Blaine. We're the same age. But seldom, and we talk about this often, we seldom have daylight between the policies that we discuss, so whether that policy is being looked at in Saskatchewan or whether that policy is being looked at half a nation away in New Brunswick. And Blaine has been very much a guiding influence for me, and someone that I've been able to openly phone or call at any point in time, unless he's fishing up at the cottage because he might be out of service for a little while. But able to phone at any time and bounce some things off him, and seldom do we have any daylight between us. And I just want to say something, and I hope Blaine agrees with me when he gets here, but we live in a great nation. I'm sure it's been maybe greater in years gone by, and it's going to be greater in the years that come. But I truly believe that we do live in a great nation. It's a sum of all of the provinces. And for as much as I talk about, and I haven't talked about it too much lately, the lack of leadership or the lack of solid policy making that maybe we have at the federal level. We have some great collaborators and policymakers at the subnational level in this nation. And I noticed that over the last 6.5 years that I've had the honor to be the Premier of Saskatchewan in working with Blaine and a number of Doug here in Ontario, Jason Kenney, now Danielle Smith in Alberta, and many, many other subnational leaders in this province, and been able to collaborate and to work out some of the policy and really, I think, provide put Canada in a situation today where we are poised for success in the future. We need just a couple of policy tweaks nationally, and I think they're coming when we find our way to the next election. But I would say due to a number of individuals, cabinets, caucuses across this nation, that our nation is very much poised for success. If you look at the industries that are creating wealth in your community, in your household, in your community, in your province, and in our nation, our collective wealth as a nation comes right back down to that. It comes down to you and your community and how we work together to create that wealth. And we are poised for some very good times ahead, just with a little bit of certainty that can be provided at the federal level. And that word certainty versus uncertainty, which is what we have today, I think is very much key to the success that we're going to see. The world is hungry for certainty, whether it be in our personal lives, whether it be in investments that provincial governments or federal governments or municipal governments are making. They're hungry for certainty in that investment to ensure that your community is sound. Industries are hungry for certainty so that they know that when they are doing exploration in our province, we have a number of natural resource projects. And same with in Blaine's province. They're hungry for that certainty so that when they make an investment in exploring for a resource, that they are going to be able to take that investment and turn that into a pre-development and then a development opportunity and actually bring that project on right through to production. And there isn't very many places in the world that you can do that today. There certainly isn't very many places, very many states or provinces where that can happen in Canada. And so what can a government do to provide more certainty in our community, more certainty in our industry or our business or where we may work? And I would say you got to really stick to your knitting. Each and every government has an official jurisdiction, and this is part of the reason some of the overreaches in this jurisdiction is why every constitutional lawyer has been busy for the last 4 or 5 years. We have constitutional lawyers in our provincial government, and nobody even knew their names until about 6 or 7 years ago, till a couple of us as environment ministers of the day walked out of a particular meeting in Montreal. But really, when we look at the provincial level, what can we do to provide certainty? And there's really 3 things. One, provincial governments, they do regulate. They do regulate to a certain degree, and they need to keep their regulations to common sense regulations that make sense for industry, attract investment, and ultimately allow those investments to come through and produce and pay for the investment that they're making. Provincial governments also invest predominantly in healthcare and education, and that investment isn't all dollars. Some of it is investment in policy, which was brought up here before. And last but not least, I would say that provincial governments need to advocate on behalf of the people that they represent. And I'll get to that in a minute. I want to cover investment, first of all, the direct investment that provincial governments do. We just had our budget here a couple of months ago. It was voted off. We have a reasonable, I'd say an appropriate majority in our legislative assembly in Saskatchewan. So we were able to pass our budget fairly quickly. The title of the budget was Classrooms, Care, and Community. It had significant increases in investment in our classrooms to address. We have some significant immigration coming into Saskatchewan to fill the jobs that are being created. And so we needed to invest in English as a second language, for example. We needed to invest significant dollars to support our educators that are in the very classrooms that we have in our communities. We also made some investment in policy. We passed the bill for parental rights, for example. We're making other investments. That particular bill started out as a policy. It started out with discussions with Blaine Higgs and a number of other of our colleagues across the nation, and I said that the policy was in place, and I said if we ever found ourselves in a place where that policy wasn't in place, that the government would use the tools that were available to it to ensure that it was. And that's exactly what happened, is that policy was removed by a court. We very quickly recalled our legislature out of our regular sitting. We passed the bill, and we used a Section 33 notwithstanding clause in that case. So not all of provincial government's investments are strictly financial, but many of them are. I mean, when it comes to as I said, classrooms, care, and community. Care as in healthcare. We are making significant investments there, financial investments, in what we call, we refer to it as ROSC. It's a recovery-oriented system of care, and it really is there to address you know, the increasing conversation that we're having, and I would say action that we need to take when it comes to working through mental health crises that people in our community and our family might have, and subsequent, all too often, addictions issues. And the drugs that we're dealing with today are not the drugs that were in our communities when I was a teenager. Let me tell you, with respect to the addictive qualities they have and how they change the very nature of an individual, all too often, as I said, a community member or family member. And so we are focused on recovery. We're not focused on making doing drugs easier. And alongside that, and we're increasing the number of recovery beds, working closely with Premier Smith, and I think Premier Higgs, you're going to have some conversations with Alberta as well, and we will have conversations on some of the efforts and initiatives that we're making around that recovery-oriented system of care. That's ROSC, R-O-S-C, recovery-oriented system of care. The second parallel to that, you need to have the recovery capacity, and then you need to have the access into that space. The second piece of that is you also need to have some enforcement in your community so that our communities are safe. And so we're investing into our police services, and we have various municipal and RCMP police services, and forming a provincial police service as well, to ensure that the drug dealers are not dealing drugs in our communities. They're actually going to be removed from our communities and the drugs with them. And that is the goal, is a two-pronged approach. So investment is, yes, sometimes financial investment, but sometimes it's policy investment, and we shouldn't shy away from those conversations. And I bring this up to say, and I want to talk about the economic opportunities as well, but I bring this up to say this is only possible through the strength of our provincial economy in Saskatchewan. And this matters across Canada because, yes, we are connected as provinces in this nation. And I believe this to be a great nation. And when things are successful in Saskatchewan, whether that being making our community safer, maybe that is providing the opportunity for a community member or family member to find a recovery bed so that they are no longer have an issue with addictions for the rest of their life. When we find that kind of success in Saskatchewan, it contributes to a much stronger nation of Canada. And when we collectively are able to hash out these policies and lean on one another on what's working, and just as importantly, sometimes what isn't working, don't implement those policies, stronger provinces, stronger communities make for stronger families make for a stronger communities make for stronger provinces, and stronger provinces make a stronger nation of Canada. We are only able to do this in our province due to the strength of the growing and vibrant economy that we have. And that is why what you do each and every day in building that economy and employing people is so very important. Because the government isn't able to make these investments right back into our families and our people, our friends, and our community without the strength of what you're doing each and every day economically. So second, invest, regulate. You need to have common sense regulations. In Saskatchewan, we're ranked as the #1 place in Canada to invest in oil, in the oil and gas industry. In the world, we're ranked as the #3 jurisdiction to invest in a mining investment in. And that's because you can take an exploration investment, you can turn it into a development investment, and you can actually bring it to production. We brought our last potash mine on in 2018. It's producing today. They've announced they're going to double production. We have BHP that is making a $20 billion investment. Will be coming on. They've pulled their phase 1 production coming forward 1 year. I believe it's 2026. We have a uranium mine that is going to find its way to construction here shortly, and we have a copper mine coming into, will be finding its way. It is already under construction, but will be finding its way through to production as well. There isn't a lot of places in North America where that can still happen. There isn't a lot of places left. There isn't one of the 50 states where you can bring a mine through in any type of a fashion that would allow for that investment to occur. And so we have a common sense regulatory environment where that can happen. You layer that on to what's happening federally, and this is where things get a little more uncertain. We talked about the clean electricity regulations. I have a minister that's, if anybody has, they claim that he's breaking the law. because we're not going to be shutting off a couple of coal plants at the time that they say. And the reason we're not going to be is we're going to transition a workforce to nuclear power plants over the next number of years. We're not going to create a gap where we lay those guys off and then need to, in 4 or 5 years, bring that workforce back. We have the clean fuel standards, which have a tremendous impact on the industries that are creating wealth in our province. We have the oil emissions cap. We have the methane cap, which has now been updated to methane 75. I think it was announced at the COP convention. We have a fertilizer cap. We're producing the most sustainable food that you can find on earth, so I don't know why you would have any type of a cap on that production. And then, of course, we have the annually ever-increasing carbon tax, of which my position on that has been pretty clear from day one. This is the Saskatchewan story. We want to expand these industries. If you care about high-quality products, food, fuel, and fertilizer, which is what we produce, if you care about cost-competitive products and having access to them, if you're one of the 163 countries that purchase your food security and your energy security from a province like Saskatchewan, and that's how many countries our 1.2 million people export to, if you care about the environment, you should know that each of the products that we produce in Saskatchewan, and this is the same story across Canada, we're already producing the most sustainable products that you can find on earth. That's the story that we tell when we go international. That's the story that we tell through our 9 trade and investment offices that are located around the world, because we advocate for ourselves as a province. We don't just rely on our Canadian embassies or our commissions around the world. We actually have offices in 9 of our largest markets. One of those markets is not our largest market, which is the USA, of which we go 3 to 5 times a year, each of us as ministers, to advocate on behalf of the relationship that we have with the US, because we're an exporting province. 70% of what we produce goes to those 163 countries, and that's what creates jobs in our community after community, and it allows for that investment back into our communities. The recipe for success in Saskatchewan, and I would say by extension doesn't differ much across Canada, is so very simple. You attract investment. Some of that investment comes from within your community and your province. Some of that investment comes from within your nation. Sometimes it comes from outside that nation, and you have rules in place to ensure that that investment is ethical investment and is going to benefit the very people where that investment is being made. But you attract that investment. Then you get those construction jobs. And we have, as I said, about I think it's closer to $40 billion worth of production right now. We're actually leading the nation. Our province, on a per capita basis, is leading the nation in investment attraction today. It creates those construction jobs. When that mine or whatever that investment is, maybe it's a manufacturing facility that's building air drills and shipping them around the world, once it's operational, we create those jobs. Those people then have an opportunity, many people have an opportunity to move from another area of Canada or another area of the world, make a community in Saskatchewan their home, and that's all great, but that's not why I ran in 2011. Why I ran in 2011 is because I saw an entire generation that got luggage when they graduated, and my friends today are still in Alberta because when we graduated grade 12 in 1991, now I'm dating myself, they left. And they didn't come back. They come back at Christmas time and they come back at Easter. Some of them are coming back now, but largely they didn't come back. And so why I do what I do and why I am bent on creating an opportunity for our children to make a choice, to work and live in a community in our province, or maybe even the community where they were raised, is because I didn't have it. And when I graduated high school, I got on a plane and I went to Yellowknife and I started building houses. And I thought, ooh, that's pretty cold. So I came back to university, and I was fortunate enough after a few years in Alberta under a Ralph Klein government to find our way back to the community that I was raised in. And I'm fully committed to ensuring that children that come after me, generations that come after me, they may leave Saskatchewan, they may even leave Canada. But it's going to be a choice that they make, because they are not going to be forced to leave. Whatever their training is, they are going to have an opportunity to work in our province, because we are going to attract the investment. That investment is going to create the jobs, and that jobs is the opportunity that our next generation, that our children and my children's children are going to have. I didn't have it. They most certainly are going to. So I would close with how I started, and I would just pause to hopefully provide you some faith that in a tumultuous time. The last number of years, they haven't been easy for anyone, and if you think they've been easy being a subnational leader, ask Blaine, because I don't think he would say that it's been easy by any stretch, and I would certainly agree with that. I know it hasn't been easy for you as well. Wherever you might live, and in the industry that you work in the community that you live in, it just hasn't been an easy 5 or 6 years, about the time that we have had the honor to serve in these positions. But we do have some strong subnational leadership that is collaborating across this nation, even across party lines where it's necessary. And I would say that we are working hard to ensure that the successes that I've spoke of in my province of Saskatchewan, those successes are equal in New Brunswick, and they're equal in other provinces due to the decisions that are being made there. And collectively, those provinces are working hard to contribute to a Canadian success. And that's what happens when we are successful in our communities, our province. We have a more successful nation. We are the sum of our parts, and we are poised for greatness with just a couple of tweaks that are going to provide more certainty at the national level, and I'm certain that those are on the way. Canada has been great before. Joe, you know that. And I truly believe that this nation that we live in, this nation that I love, and I know you do, is very, very close to being great again. So I thank you all for what you have done. I thank you very much for this award. But most importantly, I thank you for what you have yet to do, because we have a lot of work ahead of us, and I would ask you to work with us so we can do it together.